6 bone-chilling live horror stories that haunt at 3 a.m. with a light warrior. The clock struck 3, a time when the world holds its breath, when shadows dance and even the bravest hearts shudder. Something lurked in the corners of night, something sinister that would ripple through the veins of anyone brave enough to listen. 6 bone-chilling stories were about to unfold, experiences that transcended mere storytelling. They were cries of the damned, echoes of lives lived on the edge of reality, and now, they sought a light warrior to confront the darkness. In a dimly lit basement, thick with the scent of damp earth and stale fear, the whispers began. "You heard about the bathroom ghost, right?" Danny's voice trembled as he leaned in closer, his eyes wide, almost reflecting the flickering candle flames. Everyone knew the tale. John had met his fate in that cursed place. Rumor had it his soul was still trapped within those walls, forever guarding a secret hidden behind the cracked mirror. "They say when the clock ticks to 3, you can see his face," the group gasped, eyes darting nervously. Just then, the basement door creaked open on its own. Like frozen deer in headlights, no one dared to breathe. The air felt heavy, thick with anticipation. Sophie broke the silence, fear mixed with excitement in her voice. What if he needs someone to help him move on? This was just the beginning of the eerie tales. Each story was darker than the last, a chilling descent into a realm of horrors that played tricks on the mind. There was the haunted doll who wept lifelike tears, draining the energy of those who dared to approach, and the cursed painting that left its victims with an unshakable dread that festered inside their hearts. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in the basement, tension crackled like static electricity. Danny's next story sent chills down spines. The tale of the Midnight Watchers, ghostly figures who appeared outside your window at 3 a.m., beckoning souls to join them. Once you see them, it's too late. He warned, his voice barely above a whisper. The group leaned closer, their curiosity piqued and horror palpable. The time for those chilling tales had passed, and the real horror was about to begin. Questions lingered, thick and suffocating, in the air. Who would emerge as the light warrior in a world dimmed by fright? And when darkness falls, who truly watches the watchers? The tension in the basement was electric, almost ignitable. A low murmur rose as Danny's anxious energy spread through the group. Caleb's finger brushed against the flickering candles, flames shivering as if sensing the oppressive dread closing in. What if he started, voice steady but laden with apprehension, what if those stories truly hold power? What if we're being watched right now? A silence fell, lingering like a soft fog. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to thicken, while the faces of the friends sat frozen in various states of fear and intrigue. It was then that Megan, always the skeptic, rolled her eyes. "You guys are acting like kids. Ghosts? Come on, those are just stories." She waved her hand dismissively, though even she couldn't ignore the uneasiness. As if on cue, a loud crash emanated from the far corner of the room, making everyone jump. The group spun toward the source, hearts racing. "It's probably just a rat or something," Megan half whispered, though her voice lacked conviction. They all knew that basement had been empty for years, the old furniture covered in layers of dust, languishing in obscurity. Danny's expression shifted, a mix of terror and excitement flickering in his eyes. "What if it's John?" he said breathlessly. "What if he needs us?" "Stop it." Sophie shot back, her voice sharp. "Let us not invoke anything we can't handle. This isn't a game." But beneath her words, a thread of fear wove through her bravado, deep-rooted and unmistakable. Suddenly, a low whisper drifted through the air, faint yet undeniably there. It called out soft, pleading. Help me. The room grew unnaturally cold, breath visible in the air as they all held their breath. Each of them, even Megan, felt a chill creep down their spines. They squeezed away from one another, the candles wavering under their anxiety. "Did you hear that?" whispered Caleb, his eyes wide. "Yeah," Danny replied, his voice quaking. "It came from the bathroom." For a moment, everything stood still, like a frame frozen in time. The group shared frantic glances, the exit now seeming impossibly far away. "We can't let fear control us," Sophie said, her voice trembling as she stood up. "If John really is trapped, we must help him." "Are you crazy?" Megan spat. "We can't go in there. What if it's a trap? What if it's a chance to be the light warrior we keep talking about?" Danny countered, his fingers trembling slightly but determination flickering behind his gaze. Tension mounted. Finally, it was decided. A reluctant pact formed as they all resolved to face the darkness together. One by one, they moved toward the bathroom door, Danny taking the lead. As they pushed through the entrance, the darkness swallowed them whole. Cold tiles met their feet, the faint light of the candles barely illuminating the cracked mirror. They stared at their reflections, unsure of who or what might stare back. From the silence behind the mirror, a heartbeat pulsed slow and steady, like a warning drum. Just then, Danny stepped closer, his breath hitching. A figure began to form behind the glass, a face emerging with desperate eyes. "Help me before dawn," it pleaded. Suddenly, a bolt of fear seized them, freezing the group in place. No one dared to breathe as the bathroom became steeped in an oppressive hush. Outside their sanctuary, the midnight watchers had begun to gather, shadows flickering and dancing. What awaited them beyond the mirror, and who or what was lurking just outside the door? The unblinking eyes of the midnight watchers reflected their disbelief. Then the clock struck 4 and the realization sunk in that this wasn't just a story anymore. To face John's ghost, they would have to confront their own darkness. But what awaited them was far scarier than any tale they could have imagined. Would they be the light warriors they aspired to be, or would they succumb to the night? The candlelight flickered, and shadows leaped across the bathroom walls, making the air thick with anxiety. The outline of the figure behind the glass twisted, a silent scream trapped in the void. Danny's heart thundered loudly in his chest, a primal fear gripping him. "We have to do something," he whispered, knowing full well the urgency of the situation. Caleb's eyes darted around the cramped space, taking in each detail: the peeling wallpaper, the rusted pipes, the cracked mirror distorting their reflections. "We can't just stand here. We need to figure out how to help him," he insisted, his voice trembling but resolute. Sophie moved closer, holding Danny's arm tightly. "What if we can't help him? What if we make it worse? Then we have to try." Danny replied, pulling away from her grip. The image of John's desperate eyes burned in his mind as if branding him with a sense of duty. Megan, still skeptical but shaken, crossed her arms. "Fine. But if we're going to do something, let us be smart about it. We need to find a way to communicate with him." Just then, the bathroom door slammed shut behind them, the sound reverberating like a gunshot through the silence. They all jumped, panic igniting anew. "What the hell?" Megan shouted, her voice echoing off the cold tile. "Calm down." Sophie shushed, but her lips quivered, betraying her own fear. They turned back to the mirror, their reflections warped under the intensity of the flickering flames. John's face seemed to shift, a mixture of pain and intense longing. "Help me before dawn" echoed in their minds, louder and more frantic now. "What do we do?" Caleb pleaded, the weight of the moment crashing down on them. "We have to reach him," Danny said, stepping closer to the mirror. The urge to reach out, to touch the glass and pull John through, was overwhelming. "John, we're here. We can help you." His voice came out stronger than he felt, reverberating in the small room. The face in the mirror tightened, and an icy chill swept through the bathroom. "You don't understand." John's voice translated through the glass, warped and echoing. The air thickened, stinging with desperation. The Watchers, they're coming for you too. Who? What are you talking about? Megan's tone shifted from disbelief to concern. The Midnight Watchers, John's image strained to say, contorting as if under pressure. They feast on fear. You must be strong or they'll take you. Each heartbeat pounded in their chests like an impending storm. Shadows flickered menacingly at the edge of their vision, and Danny felt a tug of dark energy wrapping around him, trying to pull him back. So much dread clung to every corner of the room that it was suffocating. Suddenly, the mirror began to ripple like water, the surface warping and stretching as John's hand reached out, fingers brushing against the glass. You must decide, he shouted, the urgency surging through the bathroom. Are you willing to fight? Or will you let the darkness consume you? An explosive sound erupted at the bathroom door, making them all jump again. Whatever horror awaited them beyond the door was ready to break through. Time was no longer on their side. Megan stepped back, eyes wide. What if we can't fight it? We're just a bunch of kids. Danny felt the weight of Sophie's hand on his back, steadying him. We can't back down now. We have to choose. But as they turned back to the mirror, the world warped again, and something sinister loomed behind John, something dark and grim. His face twisted in warning. Before dawn the clock chimed ominously, the sound vibrating through the air, heralding the coming storm. The group braced for impact. Would they dare to act, or would they let the darkness sweep them away? With a deep breath, Danny stepped closer to the mirror and the shadows began to creep in. What lurked behind them? And would they be ready for the fight of their lives? Danny's breath caught in his throat as the shadows swirled, dark tendrils of dread creeping closer. They whispered promises of fear and despair, wrapping around his psyche like a vice. The mirror pulsed, and he felt John's desperation wash over him, a wave crashing through the fog of panic. Help me, John's voice echoed again, now laced with urgency that cut through the chaos. Before dawn, before they get you too. Danny clenched his fists. We can do this. We have to find a way to pull him through. He turned to Caleb, whose face was etched with worry. Caleb, do you have anything? A way to communicate? A plan? Caleb's mind raced. We need a tool, something to break the barrier, something to anchor him here before time runs out. He rushed to the sink, fumbling through the clutter. The salt. If we can create a circle, it might repel the Watchers. Salt? Sophie exclaimed. Why would salt help? It's a barrier against evil. Caleb shot back, his eyes wide with hope amid the fear. Just trust me. He began shaking the nearly empty salt shaker, spilling grains across the cracked tile. Megan darted to the mirror, shouting, John. We're going to try to help, just hold on. The urgency in her voice mixed with desperation, echoing off the damp walls, feeding the shadows lurking just beyond the threshold. As Caleb continued to pour salt in a protective pattern, the mirror shook violently. John's image flickered, a chaotic blend of warning and torment, his mouth moving faster now, words tumbling out in a rush. They are coming. You need to hurry. Behind him, the shadows thickened, coalescing into forms that were hard to comprehend, eyes staring, mouths agape, all dripping darkness. The air turned icy, every breath feeling like frosty steel scraping against Danny's lungs. Is the circle ready? Danny demanded, his heart pounding as he glanced at the grotesque figures writhing just beyond the glass. Almost. Caleb poured the last shakes of salt, creating a shimmering circle of protection around them. The shadows paused, seething just outside the boundary, hissing like furious serpents. Get in here. Danny beckoned to John, desperate and shaking. You have to. The bathroom trembled, the lights flickering violently as if responding to the fear in the air. The figures in the shadows surged, pressing against the mirror with growing aggression. John's face twisted, eyes wide with panic. You must choose. One of you must stay. They want a soul. A gut-wrenching silence fell, and Sophie squeezed Danny's arm. No. We're not sacrificing anyone. Someone has to do it. Megan exclaimed, a tremor in her voice. If he comes through, someone else gets left behind. What if it's me? Danny's voice quaked. What if I'm the one who has to stay? Fear slashed through the group like a knife, sharp and unyielding. Behind John, the shadows writhed, pulling his face and body as if they were stretching him to the breaking point. Danny, no. We can't pick. Caleb shouted. We'll fight together. We can hold them off. Before dawn, before they take you. John's image wailed, voices rising around him, drowning Danny in despair. The Watchers. Sophie gasped, realizing the truth of their peril. We need to change the game. We need to be the ones to chase them away. In that moment, the clock struck louder, each chime echoing like a death toll. Danny looked around at his friends, adrenaline coursing through him, realizing time had run out. They had to act now, or they would lose everything. Fight. We fight together. He shouted, determination taking root within him. Suddenly, shadows lunged forward with terrifying speed, and the salt circle flickered like a dying flame. Danny's heart raced, and he reached for the mirror as the darkness surged. Push back. He yelled, but would they succeed in time? And as the shadows began to break the barrier, the question loomed ominously over them, who would sacrifice everything to save them all? Would they stand united in the face of impending doom, or would fear tear them apart? Darkness spilled into the bathroom, invading the light, seeming to swallow every flicker of illumination whole. The salt circle glimmered, but its glow was dimming, lost in the growing malevolence. Danny could feel the icy fingers of the shadows probing, testing the boundary Caleb had created. Stand together. Danny yelled, gripping the hand of Sophie next to him. Her fingers were cold, trembling. He could feel her fear radiating through their touch. We can't give in. We're stronger than this. Caleb, wild-eyed and frantic, began chanting words that were strange, filled with urgency and power. He waved his arms, willing the salt to do its job. Stay focused. Don't think about what might happen. Keep your eyes on John. But John's image was blurring, the face of his friend morphing into a grimace of despair. Danny. You have to make a choice. You won't last. Please. Panic drowned his words, drowned by the shrill hissing of the encroaching shadows that twisted and howled, creating a cacophony of haunting voices. Sophie rallied, her voice strong amidst the chaos. We can break the barrier if we don't give them our fear. Remember who we are. We're not doing this alone. Keep pushing. Megan's voice joined theirs, firm yet quaking with urgency. Do whatever it takes. John, we're coming for you. The shadows surged forward again, pressing against the shimmering salt, testing their resolve like wolves toying with a wounded deer. Danny's chest tightened, the weight of dread palpable as he felt the breaths of his friends quicken. In their eyes, he saw the reflection of terrors that clawed at the back of their minds. In that desperate moment, just as the outer edges of the salt circle began to smudge and dissolve, Caleb's chanting erupted into a wild cry. Join hands. Focus your light. Let your voices join, ignite the fire within. They instinctively formed a tighter circle, squeezing hands, closing their eyes. Danny felt the warmth of their bodies, the heat rising from their unity. John! He screamed inside, sending every ounce of his conviction toward the flickering figure in the mirror. Hold on. We're almost there. As if drawn by an invisible pull, they began to chant in unison, their voices rising and falling like waves against the shore. Words they didn't understand poured from their lips, but it felt right. It felt like hope. A force began to swell around them, an energy that crackled in the air, brightening the dim light around the mirror. The shadows recoiled, screeching, a chorus of anguished wails rising into a frenzied panic as if the very essence of their darkness was being fended off. But John's face remained ghastly pale as cracks formed in the mirror, reality bending and warping. We can do it. Sophie screamed, her voice breaking through the chaos. We won't let fear win. But just as hope surged with a fierce confidence, an echoing roar ripped through the air, causing the bathroom to quake violently. Danny lost his footing, falling to the cool tiles, heart racing uncontrollably. He reached for Sophie and Caleb, a cold sweat escaping him as he realized the whispers were growing louder and more demanding. "You will pay the price," a voice slithered from the shadows, breaking through the veil. "One must stay, one must join us." The light flickered again, shadows lunged, and with a deafening crack, the mirror shattered, shards flying like daggers. "Danny!" Megan screamed, her voice swallowed by the sudden onslaught of darkness. He struggled to regain his breath, horror tightening around his chest, and felt the vacuum of space shifting. Adrenaline surged in his veins. He had to act fast. Was it really possible to save John? The darkness pressed closer, threatening to engulf them completely. Their circles were dissolving, and panic flared in Danny's chest. Would they become prisoners of the Watchers too? In the thick silence between heartbeats, he knew the moment was slipping away. Who will stay? The shadows whispered, a chilling echo of dread ringing in their ears. As they braced to face the rising tide, Danny's resolve hardened. He wasn't going down without a fight. But at what cost? Would they find a way through? Or would fear imprison them all, turning them into mere whispers of memories? The chaos unfolded in front of Danny as glass shards scattered like ice across the floor. One moment, they fought side by side, united by the salt circle. The next, they were fractured, real and ethereal. The darkness roared, a living entity that twisted and writhed, reaching hungrily toward them, screaming its hungry thirst for their terror. "Caleb! We need more power!" Danny shouted, scrambling to his feet, his hands still gripping Sophie's as if she might break apart from fear alone. Her eyes were wide, reflecting the chaotic dance of shadows, her breath sharp and shallow. Caleb's voice cut through the noise, frantic and fervent. "We can't lose our focus. Just focus. Gather all the energy, push the fear back." The walls trembled, closing in on them, the bathroom feeling smaller, suffocating. Danny could distinctly hear each breath around him. Megan's breath was a desperate pant. Sophie's heartbeat thrummed beneath his fingertips. They were alive, still fighting, but the darkness pressed forward, tasting victory. The mirror, now nothing more than a frame of memories, revealed John's image in pieces, his face distorted in anguish. "I can't hold them much longer." John yelled, his voice cracking, fighting against an unseen force. "Don't give up." Danny screamed, the words clawing their way from his throat. "We're almost there. Just hold on a little longer." Then came the whispers again, crawling up his spine. "One must stay, one must join us." They became a low chant, a horrible serenade slipping through his mind, tempting and taunting him, as if the shadows were promising freedom while shackling their souls. "No!" Danny bellowed, shaking Sophie and Caleb. "You can't believe them. We're not going to let them take anyone." But the shadows seemed to congeal, weaving together into a menacing figure at the edge of the salt circle. It loomed, with hollow eyes and a smile that twisted reality itself. "One will stay. Or all shall fall." Words were lost in the swarm of fear surrounding him. Panic surged bitter in his throat, but Danny clenched his teeth, feeling the warmth of Sophie's hand spark a small flame of determination. If they could just push the light forward. "Hold hands!" He shouted again, rallying his friends back to the core of themselves. Their unity meant strength. He had to believe that. "Focus!" They squeezed tighter, faces straining against the impending storm. Anxiety pulsed through his body, but something deeper rooted in him took over, almost instinctual. He felt it grow within him, something that wasn't just fear. An electric pulse of raw power started to build. Caleb's voice echoed the mantra again, "Join us. With light, we fight. We are more." Danny felt the raw energy surging through the circle. Invincible, they were shouting now, their voices spiraling upward toward the cracking ceiling. With every syllable, the shadows flinched, flickering like candlelight in the wind. And then, like an explosion, their voices burst into harmony, a sweet, melodic harmony that pieced together every fear and sorrow, twisting it into something beautiful. He could see the shadows buckle, feel the pulse of darkness weaken. But just when it felt like they might shatter it completely, darkness surged once more, stronger and more furious than before. "One will stay," it hissed, this time louder, more insistent, crawling inside Danny's head, whispering dreadful secrets. "No," he murmured, a shiver cracking through him. Their faces were drawn, resignation seeping into his bones. "We won't have to sacrifice anyone." With renewed fervor, he pushed the light, envisioning each fragment of hope scattering the despair. As they kept shouting, shadows ricocheted back, screams intermingling with splintering glass. But the still echoing voice wrapped around him, caressing his thoughts. "Will you save him? Or will you take his place?" He could see John's face, twisted with the weight of choice. And then, it happened. The lights flickered violently, and with a final reverberating crash, the salt circle exploded, revealing something he had never expected. What had just been summoned? And at what cost? The explosion of the salt circle sent a wave of energy rippling through the cramped bathroom. Danny felt it wash over him like a cold tide, pressing against his skin and pulling at his heart. For a moment, everything froze. The shadows halted, hovering in midair, as if caught in some twisted parade, then the truth unraveled before them. A figure emerged from the shadows, like black smoke taking form. It was neither fully human nor fully beast, with features that shifted, eyes that glimmered with malice, yet deep down, Danny sensed an underlying familiar pulse. His breath hitched and found an awful rhythm with their fear. "John!" Sophie cried, letting go of Danny's hand. She stepped closer to the shadow, eyes wide with horror and recognition, her voice a melodious quiver of disbelief. "Is that? How can it be?" The figure raised a hand that was almost appendage-like, dark fingers stretching towards them. It was beautiful and terrible all at once, embodying everything they fought against and everything they sacrificed. The whispers intensified, swirling around them, seductive yet sinister. "One must join a soul for a soul get back." Danny yelled instinctively, fear igniting his courage. He couldn't let this creature take them one by one, turn them into shadows just like it had done to John. Caleb, still trembling, shouted, "But is it really John? Look at it, he's trapped." Such raw emotion clung to the words. They were all wrestling with their own instincts, fighting against the rise of despair. The chaotic moments for minutes before blurred with emotion. Danny yearned for the brother he had known, but what stood before them seemed a mockery of everything they loved. "John," Sophie whispered, voice cracking as tears spilled down her cheeks. "Please, don't do this. We're here. Fight it. This isn't you." The shadow growled low, laughter echoing around them, and the sound turned cold, chilling Danny to the bone. "You think you can save him? He's mine. A barter for your freedom." Sophie stepped forward, closer to the shadow, her desperation evident. "No. We'll find a way. You can't have him." "Not even she can save him," came the creaking voice, deep and resonant, dripping with darkness. The fear that gripped Danny in its iron fist tightened, crushing his breath. "Don't do it, Sophie." Caleb cried, but she was already lost in the shadow's gaze, its allure tugging at the corners of her resolve. "You don't have to sacrifice yourself," Danny started, but the flickering shadows danced, interrupting his plea. In the chaos, he heard a soft murmur in his mind, rhythmic and compelling, join us, one must stay," the same refrain circling tighter, squeezing the air from his lungs. He could feel the pull behind his own eyes, as if the shadows were unwinding within him too. "Together," he garbled, forcing the words past the dread, gathering his friends around him again. "We must push back. We fight together." That seemed to ignite a flicker of hope. The feeble lights of resistance glimmered against the darkness. They came together again, hands clasped, hearts racing, ready to fight with whatever strength remained. As they focused, pushing their connection deeper, they felt a shift. The shadows recoiling for a fraction of a moment. But right then, the looming figure of John split apart, revealing the shimmering outline of another being within the very essence of what they wished to save. "Danny," the figure rasped, a familiar voice emerging, but this time with a crackle of energy that sent goosebumps dancing across Danny's skin. "You must choose." The air thickened with anticipation, and in that split second, everything teetered on the edge. What would Danny choose? How far would he go to save his friend, and what cost would it demand? Then the darkness surged again with a deafening wail. "One must stay." "No!" he screamed as the shadows lunged forward, a maw opening wide to consume their souls. Would they fight the encroaching doom, or would they unravel under the weight of despair? In that defining moment, a decision loomed. An unfathomable choice lay before Danny, and time seemed to stretch infinitely to capture it. Would he dare push forward into the shadows, or stand firm in the light? The weight of the shadows pressed down on Danny, as if the very air had turned to lead. He could hear the echo of his heartbeat, each thud almost drowning out the chaos around them. Time felt like it was slipping through his fingers, a gritty sand that refused to cling. The glimmer of hope sparked by their unity flickered like a candle in a storm. "Danny," the figure murmured again, but this time the sound was warped, fractured by the chaos swirling around them. It shifted, a flicker of recognition in those darkened eyes. "Choose wisely, John." Danny's voice barely broke above a whisper, fear battling against a longing he could barely contain. The light of familiarity seemed to falter, like a flame struggling against the suffocating shade. "Is that really you?" In that dreadful moment, shadows twisted and writhed, pulling at the corners of his vision. The whispers escalated, drowning the air with promises laced in agony. "Join us, give and fight no more, no." Sophie shouted, her voice a beacon cutting through the oppressive gloom. "Don't listen to them. Don't you dare give up, John." Caleb added, his hands trembling as he fought against the consuming dread, desperation tinting his tone with madness. Danny felt the pulse quicken in his veins, a fiery determination igniting amidst his despair. He gritted his teeth. This wasn't just about him. It was about his friends, about saving John, and about pushing back against the darkness trying to engulf them. "Fight, John. Remember us." Danny shouted, his voice taking on the cadence of urgency. If there was any chance John could hear him beneath the shadows, he had to make it count. "We love you. Don't let it take you." Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, a hiss of disdain escaping the lips of the creature. "You think loyalty will save him? Such foolishness." But at that moment, Danny saw a flicker of light dancing behind the dark eyes of the apparition. Hope surged, propelled by the memories of laughter, warmth, and brotherly love. He clung to those memories, feeling them anchor him as the whispers grew more vicious, trying to weave through his resolve. "Stay together," he yelled, reaching for Sophie and Caleb's hands again, tightening his grip, feeling the warmth of their determination against the chill of the darkness. "On 3, we push back. 1, 2, 3. They shouted in unison, voices cutting through the swirling shadows, merging into a harmony that defied the chaos. Danny focused all his energy on the bond connecting them, all the memories and laughter flooding his mind, cocooning them in a warm glow. The darkness screeched, a horrific sound that shook the walls, but they pressed on, the light from their unity swelling with each heartbeat, each shared breath. Shadows imploded, twisting and curling at the edges, as if recoiling from the strength rising within the circle they created. "No!" The creature's voice howled in fury, and suddenly, everything erupted. The room spun, colors clashed, and blinding light radiated from the center of their joining souls. Danny felt a sudden pull, like he was being torn apart. The force of the light was overwhelming, blinding him completely. Was it victory or madness? He couldn't tell. Then, in the very eye of the storm, he caught a glimpse of John's struggling form, a silhouette still trapped within the shadow. Panic coursed through him, clouding his thoughts. We can't lose him. Danny. A voice broke through, sharp like glass. It was Sophie, face twisted with determination, but her eyes reflected fear, the same fear they all felt. You may have to choose between them. Between who? The question hung in the air, heavy with stakes, as the shadows started to swallow the room whole, clawing for their flesh. What do I do? As the light intensified, revealing hints of clarity amid the chaos, Danny's gaze hardened. The thought of sacrifice pierced his heart. Please, not like this, but the whispers grew louder, more frantic, and for a moment, he was consumed by doubt. He had the power to save one. But at what cost? With every ounce of strength left in him, he edged closer to that blinding light. He had to choose. As everything around them threatened to vanish, he was left standing at the brink. Would he step forward into the light, or would he falter, leaving his friends behind to battle their own darkness? In that heart-stopping moment, everything hung in the balance, a decision spiraling toward an uncertain end. Everything depended on his choice. Which path would he take? The moment Danny stood on the edge of light and shadow, adrenaline coursed through his veins like fire. Every heartbeat echoed in his ears, drowning out the sinister whispers that clawed at the edges of his mind. The choice loomed large, casting a shadow darker than the abyss itself. Danny. Sophie's voice pierced through the tumult, a lifeline dragging him back. You have to believe. You can save him. With shaking hands, he clutched the hands of his friends tighter, their heat anchoring him to reality. He could sense the fear radiating from them, the weight of their expectations like a boulder upon his chest. The creature's looming form flickered behind John, a dark specter of despair that twisted its face into a horrific mask of mockery. Choose, Danny. The creature's voice slithered into his mind like oil, slick and suffocating. Choose him, or them. Which soul shall I take? Danny's pulse thundered. His mind raced with memories of John, the late-night talks, the laughter, the bond they formed through thick and thin. Then came visions of Sophie and Caleb, their shared dreams, their resilience, their unwavering resolve. I can't choose. The protest escaped him, cracked like porcelain under pressure. It felt wrong to pit one life against another. But those echoes of laughter quickly faded under the weight of the shadow's presence. Suddenly, he saw John, suspended in the swirling gloom, the light from Danny's unity reaching him like a desperate hand. Danny. John's voice, faint but full of urgency. You have to save us all. I'm still here. Then, as if it were some twisted play, shadows surged towards John, wrapping around him like chains. Each flicker of light from their bond flickered with agony as hope seemed to dim. The shadows stopped adjusting, a trap ready to consume. The fear in Danny's heart intensified like a thumping drum, louder and louder, drowning out rational thought. Fight it, John. We're here. Danny screamed, every fiber of his being pleading. But the words tumbled into the void, swallowed whole by despair. The creature, no longer hiding behind John's form, began to take shape. This is how it ends, boy. One will die today. You must balance the scales. Danny's breath hitched, tears stinging the corners of his eyes. Was this truly what fate had in store for them? A cruel game orchestrated by the shadows? Desperation clawed at him. And then he had a thought, a wild, reckless thought. What if I don't choose? He felt a flicker of rebellion rise within, igniting a spark of bravery. What if I break your rules? He yelled defiantly into the maw of darkness. The shadows recoiled, recoiling as if pricked by an unseen force. You cannot disobey. You cannot refuse. Sophie and Caleb's grip tightened, their eyes wide and filled with a mix of courage and fear. They too began to pull at the bonds of the darkness. Together. Caleb shouted, igniting the flame within them that had almost been extinguished. Danny could feel a surge, a tide of strength poured through him. No more choosing. We fight together. Hope surged through the group, a life force combining their destinies. As shadows flickered and twisted, struggling against the newfound unity, Danny's vision surged with brilliant light. On three, we push back. 1, 2, 3. There was an explosion of illumination, a violent clash against nothingness that sent shockwaves through the air. The shadows screamed, a cacophony of pain and fury reverberating around them as the light blazed brighter, engulfing the room in raw brilliance. But just as victory seemed imminent, a new threat emerged from the blinding light, unseen yet palpable. A chilling laughter wrapped around them like a storm. Ah, foolish children! If you think you can defy me, you have no idea what awaits. Danny's heart sank. The danger was escalating, a storm of vengeance brewing. An ominous shadow flickered, hinting at something far worse than what they already fought. What lay beyond the light? Would they be strong enough to face it? As the laughter echoed, an icy dread coiled around him. Would this be the end? Or was it merely the beginning of something far darker? Danny stood there, heart racing, his hands still clutching tight to Sophie and Caleb's. The room crackled with energy, the lines between light and dark growing thin. We can't give in to fear. This ends now. He shouted, summoning every ounce of courage he had. With his friends beside him, the very air vibrated with their collective resolve. Shadows lashed out, furious and relentless, but Danny felt the warmth of their unity pulse through him. They weren't just fighting for John, they were battling for the very essence of hope and friendship. Push back. We won't let them tear us apart. Caleb yelled, and they felt a wave of collective strength surge in response. As they began to chant, their voices intertwined, harmonizing against the darkness. It felt like the essence of their shared memories. Laughter, tears, affection charged the air, a palpable manifestation of love fighting against despair. The shadows shrieked as if they recognized the power of that bond, recoiling and flickering like dying embers. John! Fight it! We're coming for you! Sophie shouted. The words were filled with desperation and warmth, a lifeline thrown into the abyss. In that moment, a crack formed in the suffocating darkness. Tendrils of light burst forth, spilling like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Danny saw John's face clearly, the pain etched on his features shifting, as if the very shadows feasting on his fear were beginning to falter. I want to let you go. Danny screamed, stepping forward despite the creeping dread trying to bind him. The fear that had once threatened to consume him now ignited his determination. The shadows whipped around them, howling in rage, attempting to reclaim control. You're fools. You'll never win. The creature's voice echoed ominously, but it was beginning to unravel, losing its grip as the light intensified. Danny felt it, the surge of possibility, the glimmer of hope that they might actually be stronger together. As long as we have each other, we will win. With a final, unified push, they broke through the remaining tendrils of shadow, sending a shockwave of light through the room that shattered the silence, echoing like thunder. The shadows screeched, writhed, and then collapsed, dissolving into the ether in an instant. Danny gasped, panting as the darkness evaporated. And before him, the mirror shattered into fragments revealed John, no longer trapped. He stepped through the shards, pale but determined, drawing a deep breath. Relief washed over Danny, filling the heavy silence with a sense of warmth. Danny! John's voice was raw, filled with gratitude. You did it. You all did it. Sophie rushed forward, throwing her arms around John. We were so scared. We thought we lost you. I thought I lost you too, John whispered, his eyes filled with emotion, as he embraced her tightly. Caleb looked around the old bathroom, taking in the wreckage, the shattered mirror, the remnants of swirling shadows, but more importantly, the presence of his friends. We haven't just fought against the darkness, we've proven that together, we stand strong. Laughter broke through their tension as John joined them, a warmth flooding the atmosphere. Yeah. Together, we can face anything. Danny grinned, letting the relief wrap around him like a warm blanket. The clock on the wall ticked forward, the digital numbers softening in the aftermath of their battle, a symbol of their victory over the shadows that had threatened to consume them. As they stood together, they knew their bond had been tested, pushed to the very edge, but they were still standing. "Let us get out of here," John suggested, and with that they walked out of the bathroom, the light illuminating their exit as they embraced the safety of the outside world once more. But before they crossed the threshold, Danny turned to his friends, eyes glinting with promise. "This isn't the end. We've seen what we can overcome. Our stories aren't finished yet." They all nodded, a sense of purpose igniting in their hearts. Yes, there would be more challenges ahead, and perhaps even more darkness, but they would always fight it together, light warriors united against the night. And as they stepped out into the light of dawn, a new beginning unfurled before them, along with the next thrilling adventure just waiting to be told. Now, listen up. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive story that's brewing just for you. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support for our journey together. Flood the comments section with every reaction and theory you have about this ending. Your thoughts matter. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your voice makes a difference, and only true fans understand the importance of backing our channel.